Hi everyone, welcome to This Is You Armor channel. What I have here today for you, it's something that I've been looking forward to get my hands on for quite a while. It was super hyped maybe 2-3 years ago when it was launched. So anyways, without further ado, this is a Wesson DWX, brand new one that a friend sent to me to take a look at, see if there's anything we can do, kind of explore, understand how it works and that kind of stuff. So like I said, this is not a necessarily new launch from Wesson or CZ anymore. There are plenty of videos out there on how it shoots, how it compares to other CZs or other guns out there. So this is not just to set expectations with everyone. I'm not going to be shooting this in this video. I'm not going to be talking about how it shoots, what is my opinion about it in terms of, is it suitable for competition? What kind of division we could use? I might talk about this while I'm looking into it, but what I'm going to be doing here today is really looking into kind of an under the hood kind of a view and just checking on how does it work? How does it compare to the CZs versus 1911? Is it really a crossover from between 1911 and CZ? What it took from a CZ, what it took from 1911? In theory, it would be a way to get, have the best of both worlds combined in a handgun, which is a fantastic idea. And we're going to go check into that. So that's what this video is going to be about. All right, so this is a brand new one out of the box. Actually, being 100% honest with you all, it is still a brand new one, but it never shot a single round through it. But I already looked into it, and I already did some stuff to it. But that's the experience that you had getting one out of the box. P10 magazines, first difference you're going to see there between a DWX and a CZ75 is that they don't share magazines. A Shuttle 2 uses CZ75 or, an SPO1. They all use that CZ75 small frame magazine. This is more of a P10 magazine compatibility. And then we got the Wesson itself, the gun itself. So let me get the stand here and get it here for you. We can start talking about it. Right, so before we start messing with it, start looking into it, the gun is completely unloaded, safe. There's nothing in the mag well, nothing in the chamber, so we're good to go. What it looks like here, as you can see, is we got a pretty, very familiar ergonomics of CZ. Let's say, world class, perhaps the best ergonomic you can get out there on what is a fire control of a 1911, which is also arguably the best trigger you can get out there. So you get the best trigger, the best fire control, and the best ergonomics in one gun. So that's really a fantastic idea. Let's see what else they share in common, or what else is kind of a crossover between 1911 and CZ. So I'm going to start taking this apart. Take the grip panels. So first thing in common, grip panels are the same. So this, you got a Shadow 2 grip panel, it fits in this gun and vice versa. So that's pretty cool. And you got a T15 torque screwdriver here. That goes one panel out. Another panel out. Field strip, like takedown, is kind of the same system as a 1911, similar to CZ as well, is the slide stop that is holding everything together here. CZs would have a alignment, kind of a notch that you have to align the back here, and 1911s is more like a notch that you have in the slide in this area. I don't know if it shows there. So this is more like a 1911 system here, that you're gonna align this with the back of the slide and pull the slide stop, the back of the slide stop, and pull the slide stop out. So if we bring this up here, push it my index finger, the right hand here, and then get something, just because it's brand new, gotta give a little extra push, and off it goes. Slide stop comes out, pretty much what seems to be a slide stop off of 1911. I don't know if it's perfectly compatible, like exactly the same. For comparison, I have a 1911, a real 1911 slide stop here. I'm looking at them. Not really. They're not even, it's not the same diameter, the pin here. So I don't think this would be compatible, meaning you cannot use a 1911 slide stop on this gun and vice versa. Yeah, the whole thing, this back here is completely different between 1911 and it. So it's kind of a, this is not a CZ75 light slide stop either. So I would say this is more of a unique for this model for the DWX. That's the first thing that is different there. Take the slide apart. Here's something interesting. And I've seen videos and people saying, oh, it's a slide off a CZ75 with the frame off, with the bottom of a 1911, except for the ergonomics of a CZ. It's accurate to say this is the bottom of a 1911 with the ergonomics of a CZ. That's perfectly accurate. But this is not the slide of a CZ. And the main difference I'm gonna make a note here is that what I think the biggest deal or the biggest difference in terms of the slide frame feet and between a CZ and a 1911 is the inverted rails. Meaning the CZs, the rails of the slide actually are outside, and the slide dives into the frame. The 1911 is the opposite. The rails of the slide are inside, and the slide kind of overlaps with the frame, as you can see here. So the slide here is going on top, not inside of the frame. Let me show you to refresh your memory what a Shadow 2 slide looks like. Again, gun is unloaded, there's nothing there. If I break this, if I do a quick take down here, get my slide stop out. So these are the rails on the Shadow 2. Same thing in a TS2 and a Tactical Sport families, SPO1. The whole CZ75 share that same architecture here. And this goes, as you can see, the rails on the frame are inside the frame. So the slide dives in the frame. You can see here. That's not what happens in the 1911 or the DWX. Kind of important difference. Why? Because one of the reasons I love CZ so much is exactly that. You got a lower bore axis. You got your barrel and everything gets inside the frame in a lower position, lower relative to your hand. So you got better, in theory, you got better recoil control, that kind of stuff, that gun. But, we know 1911 shoots they shoot really well as well. So, but just there, it's a difference. I wouldn't call this a CZ slide necessarily. It's more like a 1911 slide actually. But there are other things that are more CZs than 1911. For instance, your barrel, so you take the guiding rod out. The spring is one of those ICM, I think it's how they call the system spring. It's one of those flat springs. Not a regular 1911 spring, neither is CZ75 spring, so it's kind of something different. Your barrel is a bull barrel, so it's a bushless. It's not like the CZ75, the regular ones. Like you got the Tactical Sport 2 now, the TS2, that the orange has a bull barrel, but in general, or you can get the bull shadow from CZ Custom, stuff like that. But in general, the CZ75 is that's a bushing system with a straight barrel. This is a bull barrel, more of a 1911 design, but it comes out from the front, or rather from the back. So in 1911, you need to push this barrel through this way to come out. This comes out just like a CZ barrel. So pretty cool. Not a difference. CZ75, at least Shadow, TS2, Tactical Sport family, the whole thing has a round chamber here, and round, those locking lugs that you have here in the front of the barrel, which makes it like you have to fit the barrel when you get a new barrel for the gun. This one is a square, and it doesn't have the feet. It's completely square here. So this is, I'm guessing you can buy a brand new barrel and just drop in and it will work. So good thing. That's not, again, not from 1911, not from CZ, just different. Better, I would say. I like that. There are other things here. There are more, let's see, 1911 or CZ stuff. The extractor, well, I need to take the, well, you can tell the extractor here on the side. That's not necessarily a 1911 extractor, not a CZ75 extractor either. but it's, I would say it's closer to what a CZ75 is than a 1911. 1911 extractor would come from the back. This one is on the side, just like a CZ, and there's a counter pin that goes on top and keeps it in place. So if you get a 764 Allen wrench to remove this cover. Oh, by the way, this is a optics ready DWX. So this is kind of new. DWX not new. DWX has been there for a couple of years or 3 years maybe, but the optics ready is brand new. So CZ got it right now. I would say, or Dan Wesson got it right rather. Why not do an optics ready, right? You can use both with a dot or iron sights. All the Dan Wesson, all the DWX guns that I've seen there in competition have a slide cut. They had to mill the slide to put a dot. So here's your optic system, different than the CZ optics ready, than the Shadow optics ready as well. Which reminds me, I don't know why CZ didn't do a Tactical Sports 2 optics ready too, but anyways. So here's a pin on the top, same system we have in the CZ. This pin goes counter, goes in perpendicular with your extractor and keep the extractor in place. There's a spring here that gives tension to it, but this is it, right? So it's more like a CZ75 than a 1911, but not really. Like if you look at your extractor for a Shadow, shape is completely different. System similar, shape different. So here you go. I'm gonna put this back, and I think we're good in terms of slide. Oh, there's one more thing: the firing pin. Firing pin is interesting as well. It's kind of a 1911 firing pin, but I don't think the length is the same. All right, I got my caliper here to measure the length of the firing pin. Let's get the firing pin comes off the same way a 1911 and as CZ75 does. You push the firing pin in and slide the firing pin plate out. Push it in, slide it out, and it comes off. Pretty simple. You can tell this is 1911 firing pin immediately after you remove it because the spring shape, like the CZ, is completely different. I don't have one right here. Actually, I do. Just give me 1 second. All right, this is what a CZ75 firing pin looks like. So you can tell very different spring, kind of different design, right, of the firing pin itself. So if I take the spring off, DWX, CZ75. If I compare, if I get a 1911 firing pin, pretty similar. That's a 1911 firing pin, and the DWX side by side. It has this kind of a notch here, but this is just to keep, it's kind of to limit the spring. So it's just, let's say this is a lighter weight firing pin than this one, but the shape is absolutely the same. Now here's one thing I want to make sure that the length is the same. Why I'm saying this? Because I checked a extended firing pin on this, and it was almost coming off of the chamber, and it didn't look like it should coming off of that that channel, the firing pin channel. It said chamber, but it's firing pin channel, so it's almost coming off of it. So I don't know, that could be dangerous, right? It could turn this gun automatic one. Every time the slide goes into battery, it hits the front, the inertia, it's enough to get that firing pin a little bit out and ignite the primer. So I don't know if that would be safe. I need to check on that, but let's see what we got here. So in terms of length, the DWX firing pin is, I'm gonna put this in millimeter, a 58.16 millimeter, and a 1911 firing pin. No, it's not shorter. It's about the same. 58.14 and 58. Yeah, so same length. So definitely a 1911 firing pin. Goes back there. Putting back there is just like put the plate back and push the firing pin in. I'm going to use a polymer punch to do so. Use whatever you want. All right, done. This is it in terms of slide. I don't think there's anything else. Your front side, your rear side is part of the optics plate assembly here, and the front side is basically a 1911 style front side with a dovetail engagement. This is it. Now let's look into the frame. I think that's where the interesting things show up. What else we got here in the frame? So mainspring. Mainspring seems to be the same exact design as a 1911. Let me correct myself. It's not the same exact design, the same system as a 1911. This spring housing, you can tell, is completely different than what you would see in 1911, but uses the same system. So there's a counter pin here that hold it in place, and it seems to be much longer than what you have in 1911. 1911 spring housing would stop right here. This one goes all the way to the beef tail here. So all I have to do here is remove that pin, move that counter pin. I've got my block, get a hammer. So different, more like a 1911, different than a CZ75, but also not exactly like 1911. The pin here is one of those pins that it's larger than one side, so it can only come out through one direction. This is not what you see in 1911. 1911 is more like a pin like this that you also have an orientation. So it's supposed to go like the round side goes in this kind of the side that has a depression here. It's the one that you push it through, but it's kind of goes in and out both ways, if you will. It's just a flat pin. There's not a one side larger than the other like this one. This is more, it uses the same system that you got into your hammer pin and your sear pin on 1911. They're large in one side. They only come out in one orientation, in one direction. So this one will come out this direction only. And get a brass punch here, not to mar anything, and should go out. There you go. So that's your pin. This side larger than this side. This side is little notch here, kind of around it, and this is like flat. So, and our spring housing comes out. So spring house is again the same system as the 1911. The spring is here, kept by this pin, this perpendicular pin here. I already checked. This is a regular 1911. I think it's a 15-pound spring, which is bad news for those of you that are trying to think about doing a trigger job and just replace the main spring by a lighter one. The lightest you're gonna find out there is a 15-pound, and this is already a 15-pound. So yes, you can shorter it, you can cut a few rings and see what happens, but then again, you're gonna go in that situation with the extended firing pin to keep reliability. Just make sure that you do that. You do it on your own risk, by the way, and you need to make sure that extended firing pin will actually work and not create any kind of issues in this gun. I haven't tested that yet, but pretty much spring. There is no piston at the bottom. Like a 1911 normally has a little piston here at the bottom that guides the spring as well. This one is just flat. It's kind of actually a round bottom here, but the springs, it sits it really well. And then there's a little piston at the top, same one as 1911. So this pin, the little spring cap, and the spring itself is on 1911 system. And if that's 1911, then this must be 1911. Yes. So sear spring, pretty much 1911 one. This is not the original one. It was part of the tuning that I was doing. I got a Wolf sear spring and I was playing with it. I rather would play with something, and it's a cheap thing. This costs like $5-6, I don't know. And it was a better idea for me to play with another one and leave the original on. So if something goes wrong, I can always go back to the original and the gun will be working fine. Since this person has not even shot a single round to this gun, I wanted to make sure, you know, I don't break anything. So this is a Wolf spring tuned to work with this gun. I brought down the trigger pull went down. Trigger pull in this gun originally was like about 4 pounds, and it's now 2.5, 2 3/4. So it's a much better trigger pull, and a big part of it was just this, and I'll explain the rest of it, why this is kind of as much as you can play with it. Maybe the main spring, like I said, but then you go into reliability problems that you need to make sure you mitigate as well. So mainspring, I'll show you the original mainspring, what it looks like. That's the original mainspring. So pretty much 1911, sorry, not mainspring, that's the original sear spring. So pretty much 1911 sear spring. And this is the original mainspring that I play with it a little bit too. So again, a 15-pound seems to be a 15-pounder compared to a regular Wolf 15-pound spring, and it seems to be exactly the same. What I did in this one is I got a 21-pound spring and I cut a few rings into it. It was a little bit lighter. I tried to get to, let's say, 14-pound spring, kind of. But I still need to test this for reliability. I don't know if this gun's actually working. I didn't do any test firing it, but just make sure you know this. All right, next step here, next thing we can see here is we should remove the safety. So the safety goes out the same way as 1911 safety comes out. So you got your hammer cocked in the back, and you start simply prying, pulling the safety off, and it should come out. Here's one thing I like to do to make sure you prevent any problem here. There is a plunge right here that is under tension right now. It's compressed. There's a compressed spring on this plunge that you want to make sure it doesn't fly away when the safety comes out. So one way to do that, one simple way to do that is just like get one of these gauge, thickness gauge, and use that back of it. This is a thick one in the back of it to push. There's actually a tool. There's a 1911 tool to do that. That's, by the way, this plunge, making putting tension on the safety so they click up and down is the exact same system as 1911. So not, and I should be putting it this way, not exactly the same system 1911. The only difference is because the 1911, the plunge it does a dual function. There's a spring in the middle with the plunge in this side and this side. This side, it gives tension to the slide stop, and this side gives tension to the safety. Well, in this case, the slide stop is not kept. The tension slide stop is not kept by that plunge. There is a spring. I don't know if you can see here. Similar to CZ system, there's a little spring here underneath that actually keeps the tension to slide stop and keeps it locked into place. So it doesn't really need that plunge. So that plunge is just one side in the DWX. So if I get my thickness gauge and I go behind the safety here, I already pry a little bit with my hand. So I'm gonna go right here and start just prying out. It will actually also keep the plunge from flying away. So I'm just gonna push the plunge out. There we go, and it's out. Safety comes out. So let's talk about this safety a little bit. Oh, it seems to be, at first seems to be like, oh, it's 1911 safety. Well, it isn't, right? The system is exactly the same as 1911. Like the fire control here, I already checked on it, and it got sear, hammer, mainspring, and the traditional leaf sear spring. Everything is the same. Everything looks like exactly 1911. The safety also is the same system as 1911. The way it engages with the sear and blocks the sear from moving, all the same as 1911. However, this is very small. This whole area here is very small compared to a 1911, and that's part of why it's a consequence of this being a CZ frame ergonomics, not necessarily a 1911. So it kind of creates a situation where I'm not 100% sure, because I haven't researched enough about this yet, but I'm going to take a risk and say this safety does not fit a regular 1911, or it may do, but the 1911 regular safety definitely does not fit a DWX. So this is a 1911 from a single stack safety. You can tell how much bigger it is. So right hand 1911, left hand DWX. Same system, as you can see, same kind of engagement, but much bigger body here than the 1911. So if I try to fit this into the DWX, is it possible? Yes, it's not impossible. You can do it, but it's not going to be a simple job of just fitting the back of the safety to make sure it slides in behind the sear. That's not going to be it. You're going to need to work on the body of the safety as well, on this plate here, to make sure it fits the frame. Which, what it means, if you think about it, is you can't really get one of those EGW or Infinity or one of those nice ignition kits and install them in the DWX and just expect that it's going to work 100%, because it will work. It should work 100% until you have to put the safety back in. When you go put the safety back in, things are not going to work, right? So that's what I would expect here. Here's the plunge. Like I said, one side, there's a plunge in one side, the spring, and no plunge on the other side because the slide stop doesn't need one. So I go back there. Safety on this side comes out completely. Also a different design. Let me get the safety of the other side here. 1911. A safety of 1911 in my right hand. A safety of the DWX on the right side on my left hand. See this little notch here? Yeah, that is particular to the DWX. I don't know, is Dan Wesson like this? I don't know other 1911s. You tell me in the comments if you're an expert in Dan Wessons, if you're familiar with Dan Wesson. Are they all like this? And this is just Dan Wesson using their system on this gun? I don't know, maybe they are, but a regular 1911 safety is like this. I can tell you, it's flat. There's no notch like this. The notch is important because your hammer pin comes off. And that notch is exactly there to accommodate how much this comes off. It's important because it not only comes off, it has a, when I remove to show you, when I remove my hammer pin here, you can tell, see this? Yeah, this is just not it's not just something that goes beyond the frame, and this notch here goes in. The notch actually latches into it, and it prevents the safety to move. So it's what keeps the safety in place, as opposed to a 1911 that would have a longer area here that slides underneath the frame. Like a frame would have a little area that the safety this goes beyond. See, let me get the safety to explain to you. It's easier. Yeah, this area here, this longer area here that you don't have in the DWX, this would slide in different. There's a frame notch that this would slide into and keep the safety locked. Very different than the DWX. So I would definitely not expect a 1911 safety to fit the DWX at all. Which then brings the problem, like I said before. You go get an EGW kit, you go get an Infinity kit, you go get all of these ignition kits out there with, hammer and safety, hammer and sear fitted together, matched together perfectly on all this, and everything might work until you have to put the safety back. That, I don't know if it's gonna work. Probably not. So we got the hammer out. Yep, 1911 hammer with a hammer strut, pretty much. Regular 1911 hammer. I actually tested this. I got a Prodigy. I have a Prodigy hammer hanging around here. I put in this gun. It works 100%. Again, until you need to put the safety back, because I use the Prodigy Edge sear as well. All right, with that, when you take the hammer, when you take the safety out and the hammer out, you can actually get this out. So that's interesting as well. Kind of different. You got the whole fire control here out of the gun in one piece. Pretty cool, which makes it very easy, and I love this, to remove your trigger bar. Trigger bar in the 1911 will go from the back like this. This just comes from the top, and it works 100%. It's easier. Interesting enough, you can tell this was fitted. Again, this is out of the box gun. I didn't work with the trigger or anything. I did work, but not with the trigger bar. So this came from the factory, which is a good sign. It means they hand fitted this trigger to this gun. Yeah, one thing interesting here, I see there is no pre or post travel way to control this trigger. Like the normal 1911 trigger would have an edge here that you can bend, and you control how much pre-travel you put on it. And the post travel is normally a set screw in the bottom of the trigger here that you come with the Allen wrench and you control it. It doesn't have one of these triggers, but look at interesting here. In the back here, there are threads. Like at some point there was supposed to be a set screw here that they just removed. And I don't think they want you to do this, but I'm going to try to do this just for fun. I'm going to put a set screw here again and try to see what it does to post travel. Maybe I got a little bit of a shorter reset by doing that here. It should be an M3 set screw here. Let me try that out. I got an M3 set screw, and let's see what happens. It might not work after I put that in, but because it might take too much of post travel, and then you pull the trigger and the hammer doesn't fall. But we'll see what it does. So see, it goes perfectly there. Right, this would take post travel out of this trigger. How much? I don't know. We'll see. We'll try. When you put everything together, I'm going to test it again. So last thing, two other things you can do here is your mag release button. This is definitely a 1911 mag release button. And I saw in the video the other day somebody saying, oh, it's a CZ slide and a CZ mag release button. It's not a CZ mag release button, and it's definitely not a CZ slide alone. It's more of a hybrid slide. And this is a 1911, completely 1911 styles mag release button. So all you have to do here, which I like it, I actually like this better than the CZ, much better than the CZ system. You just get this little flat screw here and you rotate under, you put a little tension in your mag release button, and you rotate this and it comes off. That easy. Yeah, pretty much, very much a 1911 style mag release button. There's a spring. The spring is loaded inside the mag release button and kept by that little flat screw that I just rotate to get it out. So this person, this friend wants me to kind of, it felt is too hard out of the box, so I might need to do some work on this and make it a lighter pull to release the magazine. But this is it. I kind of slide this is as much as you have to take out. There is nothing else here. All right, keep this here. Last thing we're going to do here is we're going to remove the, oh, so this is the, I couldn't show it before, so slightly different, more like a CZ but in a different position. So this is your slide stop spring, different than the 1911. And this is the sear and disconnector, which is, I can tell, exactly the same as the 1911. I'll take it out. If you're familiar with the 1911 platform, that's exactly a disconnector and a sear set. I did do some polishing on the sides here and on the face of the disconnector on both sides. And again, this is just to remove any kind of a higher spots in a profile, not really much. I'm not gonna say it made any difference in the trigger. I think the biggest difference in the trigger, the credit to, you know, getting it lighter from 4 pounds to 2.5, 2 3/4 is more just playing the mainspring and the sear spring. And that's as much as I'm going to do with this gun. Like I said, I can't really get a kit on it, at least until I research enough and find out how to solve the safety puzzle. But this is it. I'm going to put it back together now. All right, putting back together, inverted order. I'm going to get sear and disconnector. And just like in 1911, I match this way, get the disconnector like that. The sear rests on top of it. Oh, the opposite. Rests on top of it like this. And then there is a hole that needs to be concentric between the sear and the disconnector to make everything work just like that. Need to put this inside this piece here. This connector goes there. There's a hole. Very easy. Not really. Very simple system. Very much like a 1911. The pin just goes in one orientation. It's larger in one side than the other, so you can't really get it in the wrong way. All right, it will look like this once everything is back together. Then I'm gonna get the trigger bar, and the trigger goes, like I said, to the top. Easy peasy. I love how easy it is to play with this gun. Really easy. So, and this goes on top. Perfect. Then goes my hammer stud. Goes in, align the holes here of the hammer in the frame. Got my hammer pin. Done. Everything looks good. Now I'm gonna get my safety back. Again, I'm just going in inverted order that I went to disassemble. Get the plunge, safety plunge, goes back into that hole. I think this is maybe the only part that things can go wrong here when we're reassembling it. So just be careful with that. When you put the safety back, this plunge is going to be at some point under tension, and if the safety slides off, the plunge can fly away. I would think that you can get a, this is actually not the same size, not the same dimension as 1911 plunge, so you might need to, you know, go to Dan Wesson CZ website and buy, if you lose this, buy a plunge for the DWX specifically. So I think this is another part that might be, I don't want to call it proprietary, but it's like, you know, kind of a unique. That's the word. Unique is the best word. So got that, got my safety. You need to put the safety on the other side first. So that's the safety that has that notch that I told you guys. This goes in here, slide in. Oops, don't slide my pin. That's it. Safety got locked in place by that little notch into the hammer pin. Then we got the safety on the other side. Being careful for your plunge not to fly away. Just position it right. I'm going to again use the thickness gauge. You just have to be careful because this is steel, and you know, it can scratch the gun or something. So I think there is a plastic polymer tool that used to do that. They might sell in Midway USA and stuff like this, but I don't have it, so I use this. It's fighting me here to go back in. There we go. The hammer needing a little. Okay, safety's back on. Release the hammer there. Now I'm gonna put my get your sear spring or lift spring. One interesting observation here. It used the original leaf spring from 1911, which has the grip safety spring, and this is the third one here on my right, your left. It shows this third spring here in this gun is completely useless. Like technically you could cut it off and it will make no difference because it doesn't have a grip safety. So that's another difference between a traditional 1911 and this gun. The 1911s do have grip safeties. This one doesn't do. So not need for that. Third leaf there. Just slide in just like I did here. I'm gonna get a tweezer and just pull it, slide back into that notch in the back, just like a 1911 if you're familiar with. There's no difference in it. Your spring housing go in. I want my hammer to be down actually. Come on. Okay. Then I'm gonna make sure the hammer strut goes into the right spot here so I can close. That's it. I'm gonna put a punch here just to make sure this is actually catching. It is. Trigger's working. Yep. And take that off. Put the original pin here. Put a little bit of tension, pushing in. That's it. Oh, I forgot to add the mag release. So this could be a problem because remember that set screw that I put in the trigger? The stop of that set screw is exactly the mag release button. So if that set screw is too long right now, the mag release button is not gonna go in. So let's see. But the good thing is I can access. I'm not gonna be able to show that in the camera, but I can actually access that screw from here. Like using this side of the Allen wrench, I can go this way, and I can actually access it if I need to remove it or kind of tighten it up a little bit more. So let's get this in and see if it will work. Yeah, it's not touching anything. That's a good sign. You know, based on what I'm looking here, yeah, it's definitely so. the set screw is definitely touching it. I was wondering, like, will this set screw even do anything? It will. If I press the trigger, I can't move the mag release button gets tight. If I remove it, it gets loose. So it is the set screw. It is touching. It's touching it, so it's good. It will give some of the post travel control here. I'm gonna put the mag release button in, kind of put a little bit of an intention and just get that little tiny flat screw. Just go. Oops. What is catching here? Something is catching right now. That's something here. A little bit more support here for me. So my hand is not doing it today. There we go. Yeah, he's right. The mag release button is kind of tight. It's on the tight side. Oh, sorry. Off the camera here. Yeah, I'd like this to be a little bit looser. So I might need to work a little bit on that for him. But all right, let's see. Put the slide together. Make sure it's still working fine. Slide goes in. You align here the peanut in the barrel with the slide, so your slide stop can go in. Then you align the frame and push it in, and it goes in. Perfect. Oh yeah, this is actually a bit shorter trigger than it was before. That's actually pretty good. A little bit of take up here, and this is what you could remove with those. If you use a traditional 1911 trigger bar, I don't know if just if it's right dimension. I actually missed the opportunity. I could compare with the 1911 trigger to see if the dimensions are the same. I don't know right now, but then you could take a little bit of this take hop too if you want to. I actually like this, so it's minimum, and it fires at 2.5 to 3/4 pound, and then resets really short. Pretty good. All right. What's remaining here is just put the grip panels back. So do that real quick. Grip panel in. So I hope you enjoyed. This is the Wesson DWX. I think it's a fantastic gun. Pretty cool. Looking forward for this person to get it back and start shooting with it and tell me what he likes. Tell me whether he likes or not. So trigger is good. Safety is working 100%. Well, thank you for watching. Talk to you next time.